Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about the latest updates out of New York City in terms of the migrant crisis. And the reason I want to talk about this is because a common theme of my coverage on this channel seems to be the extra rights, the extra privileges, the extra immunities that these migrants seem to get in the city of New York, in this nation as a whole. And no greater example of that could have been presented than this viral video of NYPD officers being attacked by these migrants who, of course, even though they were arrested, were granted same-day automatic release due to New York State bail reform law. And we have an update to this. According to the New York Post, these migrants have actually fled the city of New York, so they're not even going to show up for their court date, so there will be no justice at all whatsoever for these migrants. And we got to talk about this, we got to break this down, and we got to talk about some of the reaction from across the political spectrum, the left side of the political spectrum, because I think that is very interesting for us to see. But before we do, I want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
And I'm Natasha Burma. 6 men have been charged in connection to that brutal attack caught on camera. The NYPD is still looking for more suspects.
2 of a dozen migrants accused in a vicious Midtown attack over the weekend appeared in court Thursday and stepped with droves of NYPD officers in a show of support for 2 of their own.
So because of the way that YouTube tends to treat my channel in comparison to other channels, I'm not going to actually show you the violence in this attack. I will use some still frames so that you can see there is a group of migrants on top of these NYPD officers. They're attacking them, they're stomping them out, and it appears that they were trying to make an arrest prior to these migrants jumping in, and we did end up having arrests of some of these migrants in relation to this, which is one of the reasons why we know that they're migrants supposedly claiming asylum. Now, on this channel, we've talked about this over and over again, that a large portion of these migrants are not actually asylum seekers. They are defrauding the asylum system because they're economic migrants and they're here for a better opportunity or whatever, and they're living off the system, living off the taxpayer dole. And to me, and to most people in this country, you would think that if you're a guest in this country, essentially, if you are here saying that you want to be a citizen because your nation is so dangerous, the bare minimum is that you don't attack law enforcement officers. The bare minimum is that you don't commit additional crimes. And it turns out these migrants do have additional criminal records, additional arrests that I want to get into.
Pummeled on camera Saturday evening. The duo were the 6th and 7th arrest made Wednesday, but only 24-year-old Yohenry Brito was charged with robbery and felony assault in the attack.
So as you heard right there, they have 7 different people that they took into custody. And remember, there is a video of this attack. I showed you some still images of it. You can see it for yourself. And yet, they're not all facing charges. In fact, of the group of people, of the mob that attacked NYPD officers, guess what? One of them is going to face felony charges, just one, and that is somebody who is actually charged with a robbery that was related or somewhat connected to this, and the reason that they're citing for not charging these individuals is a so-called lack of evidence.
Concerning 21-year-old Yandri Badros, District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office declined to prosecute, citing a lack of evidence to prove his involvement.
Don't believe your lying eyes, because District Attorney Alvin Bragg says there's actually no evidence of criminality in this particular video, so any of you who think that there is, you're probably just an evil white racist, so I'm going to need you to sit down and shut up with your evil white racism. Now, that technically wasn't in Alvin Bragg's statement, but we know how Fat Alvin rolls. We know how he prosecutes cases, or how he doesn't prosecute cases, and that's essentially the undergirding philosophy behind him not having any consequences for these perpetrators. Now, I will say that Governor Kathy Hochul and the head of the PBA, who's always advocating for the police, are not having it, at least rhetorically, even though in reality, in actuality, Governor Kathy Hochul is not doing anything. And of course, the head of the PBA is going to be pro-NYPD officer. That's quite literally his job.
We have to ask the question, why did these 4 individuals be released on their own recognizance?
Wednesday's arrest followed 4 migrants also arrested and charged in the assault Saturday, and 1 later Monday. Yet all were released but 1, who was under a supervised release.
So I have to laugh at the way that the local news is reporting this. So they're like, oh, all 4 of them were released on their own recognizance, except for 1 who got a supervised release, meaning that all of them were released. 1 of them just got an ankle monitor. And since we've talked about this on the channel before, and you might be a long-term viewer of this channel, you know as well as I do that GPS monitoring devices, ankle monitors, do not prevent people from committing crimes. In fact, I have seen some of these people's records, and I know that some of them are actually people who have been arrested for assault before, and guess what? That arrest, that release, that saying, hey, don't do that again, Mr. Migrant, has not prevented them from doing it again and becoming more bold in attacking this NYPD officer.
One of them already had a criminal record. Reveron has 2 pending cases in Manhattan for assault and robbery. He allegedly attacked a loss prevention officer at a Macy's department store during an alleged robbery, and also allegedly punched and bit a Nordstrom Rack employee in November.
In fact, Anna Kasparian, when covering this, actually went over the record of one of these individuals and pointed out that one of them committed a robbery at a Nordstrom store among 2 arrests that they had, and during the course of that robbery, they assaulted a Nordstrom employee. Now look, maybe, just maybe, they decided that because Nordstrom Rack is an outlet store, it's only the leftover things, then therefore it doesn't matter, but in my opinion, if you are here, again, illegally, if you're posing as an asylum seeker, or if you're here as a legitimate asylum seeker, the bare minimum step 1 requirement for you to be let in the country, to be paroled in the country, because that's what it's actually called, is that you don't commit additional crimes in our nation while you're in our nation. But apparently, you get multiple different strikes if you are a migrant. You can even go up and assault police officers. So these people have been released, and as I'm going to explain to you later, they've actually fled the city of New York. So now they're fugitives of justice. Again, people who shouldn't even be in this country in the first place.
I don't want to get ahead of myself here because I have a whole argument that I'm about to make. But let me just say this. Considering the lack of resources for migrants, considering the fact that you have a situation in which there isn't enough shelter and you have migrants sleeping outside, can we deport the migrants who are engaging in this kind of behavior and this kind of crime? Like, one of them has already gotten arrested twice for assaulting employees at retail stores. And then you have the surveillance footage of them kicking cops in the head as the cops are trying to detain another guy. What are we doing? So they get arrested and then they're let out. No bail, because it's New York City. Of course.
Now, by the way, I played the clip of Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks talking about this, discussing this, talking about how deportation should be on the table, which is something that even Governor Kathy Hochul had said. And apparently that moderate position, which by the way is peppered throughout the entire segment with I'm in favor of asylum seekers and all the other caveats that Anna typically gives when she's talking about this, and how this is actually not reflective of immigrants to the country, not reflective of asylum seekers.
Listen, I know we have a giant left-wing audience, and I love you guys. Please don't give into some knee-jerk reaction to provide cover for these people. These are not people you need to provide cover for. These are people who are in the country claiming asylum. They don't have a right to be here. It is a privilege to be able to take advantage of our asylum program and be able to claim asylum, claim that you're here because of whatever reason. I don't know exactly which reason they gave for their asylum claim. And you get to have your case adjudicated in front of a judge. But if you're causing all sorts of chaos, and if you're assaulting police officers, like, the idea that we're not even having a conversation about immediately deporting them is ridiculous. But then not only that, they get arrested and immediately released without bail because of bail reform in New York. That's insane.
Was too far for the left wing, and she began getting attacked on the internet for saying that if you're a guest in this nation, that you should, act like a guest in the nation. You shouldn't be committing crimes here. And if you do commit crimes, you should be deported because you don't have a divine right to be in the United States of America, to defraud our asylum system, to take advantage of a bunch of welfare programs that could be going to American citizens or legitimate asylum seekers, and commit violent crimes. Now, of course, the left wing is absolutely insane, so this was deemed a part of her right-wing arc, which just goes to show you how stupid the conversation conversation is about migrants in the United States of America and exactly why we got here. Now, this lady from the account Singing Comina, who of course has the Free Palestine flag in her bio, which is indicative of a lot more broader positions typically on Twitter.com than you might imagine that aren't even related to international policy, decided to post a 12-second clip of Anna Kasparian sensibly saying that these people who committed crimes should be deported. They're guests in this country and they don't have a right to be criminals in the United States of America, with a caption that says, Anna Kasparian seems to have forgotten that asylum is an internationally recognized right, not a privilege. Now, first of all, wrong, incorrect, not even close, thanks for playing. Even if you decide that you're going to adopt this idea that internationally asylum is a right, the right is the right to claim asylum, not the right to be granted asylum. And these people, based on their behavior, based on their circumstances back home, their actions are what determine whether or not they get asylum. And call me crazy, call me a conspiracy theorist, but if you're committing crimes, if you're attacking police officers, if you're robbing convenience stores, if you're assaulting people who work at those convenience stores, then you should not be granted the privilege of being admitted to the United States of America. On top of that, asylum is supposed to be based on a fear of persecution, fear of death, or whatever. The idea that you could go from Venezuela, pass through 5 different countries to get to your first choice when you could have claimed asylum in any of those countries is not a right that you need to be allowed to do. You don't have the privilege of your first choice when you're desperate. When you're desperate, you're supposed to go to the next safe option. So yes, the fact that these people are being paroled into the United States, another privilege, by the way, because they're actually under federal law supposed to detain these people and they're only supposed to parole them if circumstances would permit it, is not indicative of this god tier right to come to the United States and commit crimes. And what I love about this is a perfect example of somebody trying to snipe a clip 12 seconds, which, by the way, the broader context explains everything else about this, because seconds before and seconds after, because Anna actually reiterated it throughout the course of this entire segment, she made it clear that she's broadly in favor of asylum seekers, and she draws the line at letting asylum seekers commit multiple violent felonies, attack police officers on video, and those people should be deported. But these crazy lefties that think that migrants can do whatever, they're god tier citizens, they're super citizens, they can't stand it. They have to clip it, they have to get angry, they have to whine about it, and that's why in the replies this lady says repeatedly, I wasn't talking about anybody who committed any crime, even though the subject of the video, the subject of the conversation, were these migrants specifically who committed this crime that was on video, who got same-day automatic release from bail reform, but one of them was held under supervised release, and only one of them was charged with a felony.
They brutally attacked a New York City police officer and a lieutenant. Our criminal justice system is upside down. It fails every day.
Governor Hochul behind the podium hinted deportation should be looked at for the migrants involved in the attack before saying it plainly and clearly.
Get them all and send them back. You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anybody.
Republican Staten Island Congressman Nicole Malliotakis blaming politics.
Democratic policies at City Hall have made this much more difficult for our law enforcement than it needs to be.
Now we have the story from the New York Post, and the headline is as follows. Police believe 4 of the migrants arrested in cop beatdown near Times Square fled on a bus to California. Cops believe the group could have hopped on a bus bound for California on Wednesday after giving phony names to a church-affiliated nonprofit group that helps migrants get rides out of the city, according to law enforcement sources. The 4 accused cop attackers, believed to have skipped town with assault on a police officer and obstruction immediately after the shocking caught-on-video attack in Midtown. Darwin Andres Gomez, age 19, Kelvin Servita Arocha, age 19, Wilson Juarez, age 21, and Yorman Reveron were released without monetary bail by a Manhattan judge. Now, they say that Reveron, who had prior arrests and a rap sheet, was put on supervised release, and sources said that him hightailing it out of the city would likely be a violation of his court-ordered release, and this court-ordered release was due to the fact that he has 2 open criminal cases, including the charges that he punched that Nordstrom Rack employee while trying to steal $130 in November. He's also accused of punching a worker at Macy's Herald Square last month while allegedly trying to rob a retailer with 2 others. Now, as reported by this story, the 5th, 6th, and 7th people were also released by the NYPD because, of course, that's what you have to do. So here we have a bunch of migrants that are caught on video attacking an NYPD officer. One of the migrants has 2 additional priors, all of them violent priors, all of them involve assaulting people, but DA Alvin Bragg immediately upon seeing this video, upon looking at it, upon noticing that there's clear and obvious evidence of a felony, decides that that's not actually evidence, and he immediately drops the charges, reduces them on all but one of the migrants. Then you have a judge, because of New York State bail reform law, deciding that they're entitled to a same-day automatic release, so they're released on the streets, and of course 4 of them flee immediately, because why would they even bother? One of them gets a supervised release because they decided that 3 different assaults, okay, maybe we're going to check in on you, maybe we're going to see how you're doing, we're not going to actually hold you based on this pattern of behavior that you have, and God forbid we'd ever deport you because, sanctuary city, we would never work with ICE as an agency because you have a right in the city of New York to commit crime after crime after crime and never actually face any consequences for it. Now, my question for New York City, my question for New York State, my question for America as a whole, everyone out in the audience, is how long should this country put up with this? Because I think they should have stemmed this tide and deported the individual the first time he slugged a Nordstrom employee, the first time he decked somebody who worked at Macy's. Hell, I actually think that these people who are obviously committing asylum fraud should never be paroled in this nation in the first place. But if they are paroled into this nation, if we're not sure whether or not they deserve to be here, the moment they start committing crimes should be a good indicator that they are not welcome here, they do not respect our laws, and they should not be granted this god-tier privilege of being able to attack NYPD officers. We hear over and over again about how, as soon as you cross the police, then you're gonna get it. You're gonna get beat down by the cops, you're gonna get the harsh American justice system, you might even be killed. And guess what? We elected people based on the idea that all these evil white racists were in the police, and now it's completely turned in the other direction. You can assault a police officer, still be guaranteed a same-day automatic release. You can assault multiple people over and over again while you're paroled into this country, while you're actively committing asylum fraud, and still get a release just with a little bit of supervision, and then you flee the state of New York, which again is a violation of that supervision, but that's okay, we don't care, no big deal. Feel free to go to California and commit crimes over there, because honestly, you're entitled to it. You weren't born here, you don't pay taxes here, you're not a citizen here, but therefore, you are entitled to all the perks, even super perks, that regular ordinary citizens don't have. Now look, I will continue to keep you guys updated on this story into the future. I will give you new information as it becomes available to me, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Now, I'm pretty sure I understand where most of you guys are going to be coming from in the first place, but still, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As usual, if you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about migrants being allowed to attack cops and still allowed to stay in this country. Till next time.